Members, we move to the Identity Information Confirmation Bill, and the question is that Part 1 stand part. Honourable Ruth Dyson.
Mr Chairman, it would have given me great pleasure to say that this bill, like the previous one that we've been discussing, has been through the Government Administration Select Committee recently, and I was pleased to support its progress back through the House. But actually, it's not the case, because the Identity Information Confirmation Bill was actually referred to the committee on the 19th of October 2010. 2010, that was over 2 years ago. The closing date for submissions was the 1st of December 2010. The committee received and considered 13 submissions, heard 3, received, I'm sure, extremely competent advice from the Department of Internal Affairs, and now 2 years, 1 month later, we get this bill back. What has the Minister been doing in that time, I wonder? There doesn't appear to be much wrong with the bill. There doesn't appear to be any further changes from the Select Committee. The Select Committee made some very good changes, actually. Entire sections rewritten, and I have to say the commentary to the bill is very clear as well. But, to be frank, there's not much to it, Minister, and I'm not quite sure why it's taken the government such a long time to get it to this final stage. Perhaps they don't consider identity information confirmation important, but I do. We did have some departure from our total agreement with this bill, but not to the point where we decided to vote against any particular provision. But I just want to draw the House's attention to the fact that during the debate at the Select Committee, the Labour members would have preferred to have deleted clause 18 from the bill. Again, this is quite similar to the comments that we've just been making in the previous legislation in regard to the protection from liability of various individuals, and in this case, the sub-part of the Identity Information Confirmation Bill says there is no cause of action against the Crown or a Minister of the Crown or the responsible officials or a delegate of the responsible officials or an employee or a contractor of the Department to recover damage for any loss or damage that is due directly or indirectly to the use of the confirmation service for an identity information check. And we were a little concerned that this was really absolving the Crown, the ministers and any departmental officials who were involved from any responsibility, and that's not always a good thing. Sometimes it's important to say that it's better for an event to be owned up to be claimed, and then to move on from that. But in this case, it's just absolving them of all liability. So Labour members expressed their concern about that at the time. But we had advice through a formal submission from the Legislation Advisory Committee, and they persuaded us, actually, that this was a good provision to have in, and that our objections were outweighed by the arguments that they put to the Select Committee. So that was our only major concern in relation to this legislation, Mr Chairman, in terms of the specifics of it. It is, again, a pretty straightforward bill. It's quite similar in title but not in content to the bill that we've previously progressed. We've just progressed the Electronic Identity Verification Bill. This is the Identity Information Confirmation Bill. But what this bill does is ensures that there is a service that allows agencies to confirm an identity that's been provided to them by an individual. So somebody says, this is my identity, and then it's then a service that allows for confirmation of that identity. I hadn't really reflected on how many alterations a person might go through during their life in terms of what is on their birth certificate and what might be their common name in use, and therefore in documentation that might otherwise be able to be provided to prove that person's identity. So if you're born with a name of Chris Farfoy, seeing everyone's dropping that tonight, but you decide that you might prefer to be called Freddie Whāwhoi for some reason, but your birth certificate still says Chris, but all your your rates demands, your power bills, your phone bills, whatever, are all in the name that you use most. So quite common situations can cause actually quite a lot of difficulty, and I think that the officials, from my reading of the deliberations, not only went to the most common areas where this could be problematic, but actually looked at the areas that might be more unusual and ensured that this is a robust piece of legislation that will provide access to that service of verification for people regardless of their change in circumstances.
Mr. Chair.
Chris Ockenvold.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to join with the Chair of the Select Committee in commending this bill.